This is Reference Daily News. And we have somebody that have there's no need for introduction. It's somebody that is considered the opposition candidate for 2023 election, and that is Mr. Omoyele Sowore. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. First off, I just want to say, how has it been this while being away from your wife and kids for over 3 years now?
There's no word I can describe that. So for everyone as well, the country that's with terrible leadership. So probably lucky to have my kids simply talk to somewhere else. 200 million people are trapped here. I have nowhere to go.
Wife and kids for over 3 years now.
This is not waste too much of our time.
For some reason, the audio is a little bit fade over there. It's a little distort. I don't know what's
Let me see what I can do to improve it.
Okay.
Has it gotten better now?
Yes, that's much better.
Yes. Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. All right. So again, we were just asking that how has it been being away for that long, for over 3 years, and even as the father myself, I know that is a serious thing. How have the family coping with your absence?
We're doing fine. I have to give credit to my wife, who's taking care of the kids at this point and holding up well and tight. She's the one that deserves all the credit.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's dive into it. So tell us about your journey into activism, and what keep you going as a man. We know your love for the country. We know your love for humanity. So what was the drive?
It's difficult to explain in one word because it's a very fluid and dynamic situation here in Nigeria. But I think you just wake up every day and find how hard it is to live here, how hard life is, how brutish and short it could be. If you have any humanity in you at all, you'll be moved to want to do something. For people like me who've done this for several years, I just feel like my conscience a duty to put in my best, to put in as much as I can, to change the narrative and the course of history by chasing after a better life for Nigerians or the people of Nigeria on a daily basis. So I don't want to sound messianic. It's one of the hardest decisions I have to make every day. It's like when I say decision, it's like how do you live in a situation like this, not to worry about the well-being of the people? And I know Nigerian leaders don't care about those things. They don't. They're all about themselves and their clique, their groups, their cronies, friends, and family.
Wow. That's very typical. So the next question is, why are you running for the highest office in the land? And what makes you a better choice?
Well, the highest office in the land is not the presidency of any country. It is the office of the citizen. The citizens are the most important people in every country. In terms of why I'm a better choice, I have looked around and haven't been around for so long. In characteristic profiles, all are the ones who call themselves leaders, both those who are appointed, elected, or those who force themselves or impose themselves on people. And studied, and I know that based on what I know, my exposure, my education, my character, that I will do a better job than all of them combined. And I'm not bragging if given the chance. And I wish that people can see through that. But because there's none of these qualities that I've not displayed. It's a courage, it's a solid understanding of the problems and the solutions that qualifies me better than any of the guys who either have run the country in the past and those who are planning to contest against myself in the next electoral cycle.
The very first time I met you was at your 2019 town hall meeting in Atlanta, Georgia. And one of the audience asked a question that you gave a very beautiful answer to, but it was kind of rowdy. People didn't hear, they were clapping. I couldn't get the full answer. And the question was, what kind of economic system will you propose for Nigeria? Because it's like most African countries, all the system we're trying to use are all borrowed system. And so, what kind of economic system will you like to propose for Nigeria?
Well, I have answered these questions then and now, based on what I believe people can understand. Because when people talk about economic systems, they're basically looking for macroeconomic answers, and macroeconomic answers or solutions lead to microeconomic progress, and this has to do with making the right economic policy for a country. Start, having control of your exchange rates and several other great things that goes with the economy. But the big deal for me is for a country to define its political economy first before you start going into those economic nuggets. And what I've said is that an economy that's not focused on the well-being of the people, an economy that is focused, I said not focused, but I want to say the economy that's focused on the well-being of our people.
Yes.
And primarily to uplift them, to take people out of poverty and create equality is the first definition of an economic system that can then be fed into a lot of troughs. Unfortunately, nobody is discussing that particular important aspect. We are always discussing, putting in place economic systems that suits the agenda of our former colonial masters or neo-colonial masters. And like you said, things that we borrow from the World Bank and the IMF and other economic, other international bodies that force these things on ourselves so that they can benefit their own citizens. My 20 years of living in the US, I find something very interesting that the US, if it's necessary, we're going to rob a bank in another country to fulfill the economic needs and the well-being of their people. Nigeria, when necessary, will leave its vaults open to robbers to fulfill their needs instead of fulfilling the needs of their own people. Whatever is left, the leaders pack them and take them away. So this is where I would be different. This is where I would be different from all these jokers who are there, because they are waiting for blueprints of economic policy. But I've seen them work and come to the conclusion that they don't work. And they themselves, in their moment of sobriety, have always said that the economic policy is not a one-size-fits-all.
Wow, what an irony.
Yeah. So, but we don't listen. We're just, and that's why they are more interested in leaders who don't understand these things. As we're speaking, I'm sure they're looking for another. The West is probably looking for another puppet who can just listen to all these young graduates working on the IMF who are working with them and tell them, this is what we want you to do. Don't care about your people. Don't invest in education. And when their economies are going down, where they have health crisis like they have with COVID, they come around here and take the same doctors that they said we should not fund our universities to train to go help them. So you understand, if you don't have a complete, deep, fundamental understanding of how the world works, you can't even start to dream of an economic system that will work for young people. Wow. But if the essence of government is to make people well-being a priority, their security a priority, jobs a priority, infrastructure a priority, healthcare a priority, education a priority, water, clean drinking water a priority, which they themselves said are part of their own SDGs. What's good is your economy. If you say to people, oh, you want them to have free markets, and your countries don't even have free markets. What I mean is that you can't do price gouging in the US. Yeah, there are controls on everything. There are controls on rents. They send people to jail for price gouging, for raising the price of the products simply because there's profit. But over here, you're saying, oh, it's not necessary. Just let these private companies run riot on the people. That is the reason why you are paying less for internet in the US. You can have unlimited data, unlimited calls and texts for $50 or less in some cases. And our country over here, you have to have dongle for about 5 companies, 5 mobile cell companies, mobile telephone companies, for you to be able to get data. Your colleague couldn't join this because it's in a place where it's probably difficult for their connections to work because the towers that are pouring out data rely on diesel to work.
Wow.
So yeah. So these are just fundamental understandings of our own socio-economic situation because you cannot separate economies from people.
That's true.
Yeah.
Wow. Last week, I believe, after your first visit to Ondo State, Akure, you said that the right time to challenge those in power and bring those with fresh ideas, fresh blood, and initiatives that can change the narrative of Nigeria. Do you think the Nigerians, especially the youth, do you think they are ready to fight for their rights, to confront these bad leaders? Do you think they are ready? Are they showing concern?
The assumption when we mention youth as if it's one monolithic body of right-thinking people, it's an assumption that makes us feel like everybody who's young is thinking the same way, or they're part of one social unit that is only after their own well-being. That's not the case. It's not the case in Nigeria. It's not the case anywhere. But you just hope, you want to hope and wish that young people whose future is at stake,
right,
will be more interested and involved in political issues to the point that they will not allow, knowingly allow those who are not after their well-being to be in charge of their future. That's the assumption. But here, young people have been so decimated with hunger, starvation, unemployment, that their thinking faculties have been shut down. And then if you add repression to it, direct repression, police brutality, then you have a situation where they are also perpetually afraid to make these moves and the right decisions. So otherwise, we should by now have narrowed all the candidates to probably one person, that would be me. because I've always fought in interest of young people. But there are the same young people who relies on 10,000 naira every month from certain government officials and non-government officials to work against their own interests, and they will do it. They will gladly do it. So there's no situation of that enlightened self-interest as it is known for amongst young people. It's just a few of them understand what that means. The rest are just struggling, and they're struggling from day to day to make ends meet. And you can't blame them when they're not practically on the part that understands that there's a lot more to life than just momentary gain, or what should I call it? Whatever it is that they throw at them that make them lose their minds. That's what they're doing here in Nigeria. But I'm happy that quite a number of them are not doing too badly in terms of social consciousness, social political consciousness.
Okay. Wow. This question you probably have answered it before as well, but I will ask it is, why didn't you go the way, I would say the so-called comrades, today that we have them all over the other political parties? Why didn't you join them? You have all of them in the big party like APC and PDP. So why did you join these folks?
The people you call comrades make an assumption that it's some nomenclature of a left-leaning individual that you met someday who once joined the protest, or you went to school with them, and you haven't followed up on them to understand what their situations have become, whether they've changed their minds, or even if while they were protesting with you while you're in school, if they really believe in the protest, if they were doing it in the interest of others, we don't know. So until they are challenged by the conditions of life, or degrees of life here, it is then that you know who the real comrades are. So, and that community is shrinking on a daily basis based on these realities. It is tough to remain a comrade in a country where you are practically living in a jungle. It's survival of the fittest. Yes.
That's very true. So another question is, how come going to the very like why back? Why you were so close to MKO Abiola in a particular video, and my thought is, would MKO have made you like a minister under his administration if if Babangida did not refuse officially to declare him the president?
No, when I met Abiola, I was still in the university.
Okay.
I was still union president of the University of Lagos. Interestingly, I was initially opposed to Abiola's candidature. So I didn't participate. I wasn't a member of his political party. We came into the picture after his election was annulled by Babangida and the military. Our primary goal at that time was to get the military out of the way and establish democratic rule. And that's what I was talking about, enlightened self-interest. We were acting to support him so that our own future could be guaranteed as well. I wouldn't have joined his party. I wasn't a member of his party, and I wouldn't have accepted even a position from his government. We had our own part very clear, and his own part was clear. But our parts merged when we were both fighting against political injustice over his election. I had no intention. I wasn't part of his inner circle. I wasn't going to sleep in his house. I just attended those events, organized protests to ensure that his election mandate was not thrown out of the window. And it didn't happen. But even if it did, I had no expectations, I had no interest, and I wouldn't have joined the government.
Wow, interesting. So let's go to parties now. There's a lingering crisis in AAC, your party, and as to your position as the national chair, and one Leonard Nzenwa claimed that you were expelled. How true, sir?
I hate to even address these issues.
Okay.
Because they're a distraction. What you should understand is that since 2018, when I founded a party alongside some comrades, and we came out in the open, challenging the status quo, bringing out firebrand ideas that never been heard about in Nigeria, but traveling around Nigeria and infecting the populace with our ideas, the possibilities that are out there for better living. The political class in Nigeria were alarmed that these guys are coming in trouble. And they've been after us, or after me in particular, since that moment. The idea that this particular individual you mentioned was brought in sponsor to hijack the party had always been the nature of the Nigerian political environment. When the party is vibrant, uncompromising, doesn't want to sell out, they look for somebody within the party to say, oh, we no longer support this person who is the leader of the party, who is the founder of the party. In fact, I was told when the party was registered that I should understand that there is no political party founded by anyone. There's nobody who founded the party who is in charge of their party today in Nigeria. The government will always come in and hijack the party. Other political parties will hijack the party. Ours has been probably the only party they haven't been able to hijack as successfully as they had wanted. So all those issues are related to that in general. So but we are in charge of our party members. We just submitted our party membership register a few days ago. So they accepted it because we are the only people who legitimately registered people, yes, in the party and have legitimate records. They know all these things. But what has happened is to look at the trajectory of my life political journey since 2018, that starting from when I started campaigning, I was barred from entering some places. I was tear gassed in the palace. I was prevented from participating in election debates. It was like a massive gang up. And when I was done with the election, and I told Nigerians that we need a revolution, it was gathering momentum. I was arrested, detained. I was then restricted to the city of Abuja. My brother was shot and killed. I was shot at. My nose bridge was broken. There's nothing they haven't done. That would explain to you contextually why now they've realized that people are turning in our direction. They brought up a press statement that I'm not the chairman of the party I founded. So it should explain to you where all that is coming. They're more interested in what I have to say, what I have to do in this election cycle, and they're interested in their own political parties. And they want to try everything they can to stop it. That's what you're saying. And they pump a lot of money behind this. So that would ultimately.
So for like people watching right now that will like have interest to even join the party, because some youth, obviously everybody's they're tired of these shenanigans and the old, same old. So when is end gonna come to this, that people like that will be able to be separated from the party, and there'll be a clear path, clear information?
Well, don't let me lie to you. As long as the party is doing what is right, is a party close to the heart of the people, they won't give up. They'll keep fighting. They'll do everything they can. So telling you that would happen overnight, even if Leonard is removed today, another person will, pop up. They're very interested in a political party that is also a liberation movement at the same time. And you hardly find that in any society where a political party is the place for a movement that wants to liberate a country. So being a political party means that they have official control over the administrative idea. I mean, they have administrative controls over your party. So they leveraged on that to cause confusion, to slow you down. Ultimately, they will be defeated. I have no doubt about that.
Awesome. So are you ready to join forces with other presidential aspirants, if need be, to work together?
As long as the working together is not to compromise our ideas and ideals as a political party and a political movement, they are welcome. But here is what I'll say. If you're expecting me to join APC presidential candidate or PDP presidential candidate, any of these parties out there who have no clear idea on how to liberate Nigeria or make things work for the people of Nigeria, you can perish your thoughts. But if there's anyone who is sober enough, who is humble enough to say, hey, I can line up behind this other party, they mean well for the country, they'll be welcome. But we will, of course, do proper scrutiny because it's always beyond the surface.
Wow, awesome. So you've consistently solidarized with the Igbos. I would say to almost every aspect of Nigeria where need be, and taking a different position on who to become president in 2023, as people are talking about zoning and all that. Do you think you imagine the president is enough to console and assuage the anger of the Igbos?
It would be wrong to say the Igbos are the only ones who are angry in the country. Everybody is angry.
Your audio is a little fade over there.
Okay. Give me a second.
Okay.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So the Igbos are not the only people who are angry in Nigeria.
Of course.
It would be wrong to say Igbos are. The Yorubas are, Birons are angry, Hausas are. It depends on which part of your life Nigeria happens to you. So, well, the Igbos are probably the most, or the Biafrans are most organized in saying, we no longer want to stay in Nigeria. We don't believe in this entity called Nigeria. We want to live, have our own separate states. And they turn the guns on them.
We lose you there again.
I hate oppression. It's the right, to support the right determination. I support that. I support religious freedoms as affects Shiites. I support the right for self-determination of Yoruba people. I support the right of the Niger Delta region people to control the bulk of their resources. So I support human rights in general. I'm against police brutality, torture, and repression. I'm against economic slavery. I'm against usurpation of powers and the drawing of lines of separation of powers. So that's why you find me everywhere at all times, putting my life on the line to ensure that people are not cheated.
Wow, awesome. So this is going to be my final question. I know the time has been well spent, and so how are you engaging the masses differently this time? Have you learned anything new from your earlier election?
I have. I'm probably the only aspirants in this election cycle that never stopped campaigning for the issues that matter to me and others. After 2019, I started going to neighborhoods. I was arrested. I participated in protests. I started NSAS in Abuja and ended it too. The last protest of NSAS was carried out by me doing graffiti in front of the airport, National Assembly, and the polling
Yeah, I saw
airport.
that. Yeah.
Good. So I never stopped. So, and as you have seen, so some very, very powerful movements around. I've been going around since I stopped, since I was granted the right to move around by way of a court order.
Mm.
And I've been talking to people. I've had probably the highest number of these conversations like Zoom, more than any candidate. You know, I've been going to neighborhoods to do small talks and rallies. And last week, we went to Ondo State, my hometown. And probably the first candidate, I'm sorry, I keep saying candidate, aspirant to ever enter into a river to do a campaign. So, something different.
Yes, yes. And thank you so much for honoring our invitation. We know you're very busy, and I want to appreciate you. I want to say another, want to wish you well. We're rooting for you, and we wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Thanks for being me on the show.
All right, thank you, sir. And that's it for all of you. And they say bye.